What's up, Diablo 4 Druids? So if you want the ultimate build to basically do everything in the game, this is the max difficulty. This is a tormented boss, and you can see we absolutely deleted it and one-shotted it. But you can do all forms of content with this build. You can do the open world content and basically just one-shot everything. You can also do the pit. I actually really recommend this build for most players as it does not require any mythics. It's one of the only builds I would say this season that doesn't really need a mythic. And if you do get the mythic, it can give you a little bit more DPS, but it's really not that big of a deal. So if you want a very, very strong build that will kind of fulfill the fantasy of the most overpowered thing in the game, because you literally have 100% crit, 100% overpower, and you can pretty much delete everything in the game. The build can eventually go into a 150 if you want to do some swaps, but for the most part, this is going to be the updated Ultimate Cataclysm Druid build that has infinite ultimate uptime. You can literally sit in your ultimate form the whole time. I will also provide you guys with the Mythic version very soon. I have the whole build ready for you guys, but I want to dedicate one video towards the non-Mythic version because, well, Mythics are kind of annoying to farm. But anyways, let's get started. So as far as our skills go, we are going to be running Blood Howl. This is going to convert us into a wolf form, and during the wolf form, there's other bonuses when we kind of swap in between different forms. So you just activate it when it is up. There is also a bonus that you can get if you want to stay in wolf form. But for the most part, it's just to activate a transformation. And then we have Hurricane. This will actually count as another skill because all of your skills via Tempest Roar has a special ability where your base storm skills are also werewolf skills. So that's a very big thing. But pretty much while this is up, you're going to get extra bonus ranks to your Cataclysm. And then with Trample, the reason why I personally prefer running Trample over, let's say, Pulverize is Pulverize is a slower skill. Trample lets you convert yourself into Werebear while also still maintaining speed. It takes away the clunkiness of requiring to activate Maul. You could drop Maul completely as a skill with this version of the build, as it still lets us convert into Bear. Ideally, you want to stay in Bear form, so you would Trample, and then you kind of just move around as a Bear. But the thing that I like with Trample is it does give us Unstoppable. You can also grant yourself Unstoppable if you want to play Bulwark, but again, it's the conversion into Bear, and it makes the build feel way smoother and less clunky. So instead of Bulwark, I opted for Cyclone Armor because it's a thing that you don't need to push. This is a very lazy-friendly build. So if you're kind of a lazy Diablo player, like you don't like pushing that many buttons, you pretty much just need to keep up Cataclysm and you don't drop it. It will require you to snapshot, but I have a video tutorial on that if you do need to learn it. But you should learn snapshotting in Diablo anyways because it's relevant in a lot of builds. But I like this. You don't have to push it. If you want to push it to activate your runes, then it's fine. Then Maul, you can convert yourself into Bear to get some more damage. So pretty much all you do is you snapshot Cataclysm and you just walk. That's basically the build. The other stuff, if you want to activate them, honestly, you could probably get away with removing every single skill from the bar. With the exception of Hurricane gives you plus ranks, but you could pretty much get away with literally just running Cataclysm. I think what we'll do just for funsies is make another updated build for this, and we'll just put Cataclysm on the bar, a one skill build, which would be very fun. But nonetheless, next up though, as far as the Spirit Boons, we're going to be running the Gift of the Stag and gaining Wariness. You can also go for an Eagle one that gives you extra crit damage, but for the most part, this is just very beginner friendly. That's so kind of the point of this build, as I have updated it. Eagle for more HP, and then we have Wolf to extend our ultimates, and then we also have Calm Before the Storm to make sure we can maintain up our Cataclysm, which is kind of the main purpose of this build. It's an infinite Cataclysm build. We actually can go ahead and just load some gameplay of a pit. This is a pit 100, by the way. It's really fast. You just have to make sure you learn snapshotting. Again, if you do not know how to snapshot, I will link a video that will show you guys how to do it. It's very, very key that you learn it in this build. But as far as the gear goes, we are going to be running the Tempest Roar, and we ideally want to get a GA and Willpower. The rest of the stuff doesn't really matter for the GAs, but Maximum Resource technically can be okay, but Willpower is your key component here. And then with the Mad Wolf's Glee, the only thing that is important isn't any of the GAs on the rolls, but it's specifically on the special, unique power, where it becomes like Werewolf is your true form. That number, you want to be in rank 7, so it's the biggest amount of Werewolf skills. Remember, your Werewolf skills count as storm skills, so you get all the bonuses with your Cataclysm. And then for our gloves over here, we do want to run Behemoth's Brawlers aspect, and that is going to give us some more damage because more ultimate skill ranks over there is going to be great, and also casting an ultimate just increases our raw damage. And then ideally we want to try to get some maximum life armor resistances in our pants as well as our gloves. You don't really need attack speed in this build because it kind of just activates all of the damage because your ultimate is what's giving you all of your damage. damage. But this build over here, until you get the maximum armor, I recommend you guys to run Juggernaut in your amulet, because the build does way more than enough in terms of damage. But yeah, you can definitely run this over here. And then for the pants over here, we want Storm Shifter's aspect, and we also can craft the Hurricane Duration as the utility. You can get this in a couple different spots, but Hurricane Duration is going to be good. That way it never drops off because it's plus ranks to your thing. And then if you want to get like armor rolls, resistance rolls, this is where you would want to try to do it, because the build has a lot of uniques. So next up we run Flicker Step over here. You never have to use the unique clunky thing with it. It's just because of ultimate damage. You can also run a regular pair of boots if you want to, with specifically getting willpower. You can also get resistances here. That just gives you some extra damage. And if you are struggling in the cooldown department, this will really help you out. And then also we have Apogeic Furor. So this is going to make it so when we cast our ultimate skill, we just get more and more damage. It kind of stacks up. If you want to, you can also put this on the amulet. You can also run this in a two-hander, but I'm trying to make this as easy and beginner friendly as possible. So instead of running a two-hander, we are running a one-hander, and I'll explain why. But for the weapon over here, ideally willpower, maximum life, these are all great things. Overpower is a great thing, but you want that craft on the temper for Cataclysm to deal double damage. That's like the big one. You can see I'm still literally leveling up glyphs here, and pretty much everything is just deleted in terms of content. And then also on our amulet, we can get ranks 2 in Venom. We can get different like Quick Shift. These are all like great stats to get. You can also get Cataclysm cooldown reduction if you're running into problems with upkeeping it 100% of the time. My ideal goal would be to make sure that you guys never need to use Flicker Step. And from the gameplay, you guys will see I never use the little Flicker Step mechanic, and we have it up 100% of the time. It really comes down to getting a good rolled unique set of rings. So the Arida's Inexhaustible Will, this, and the Menorach Ring. These two things will really help out with keeping these up. These are absolutely required. If you're wondering, what do I need to get the build up online? For cooldown, you could technically activate this pretty early if you have Flicker Step, but you can't really play this build at level 1 because you need to get the points into the ultimate to actually deal like realistic good damage. But yeah, Electrified Claws is great. Now there is another version. If you want to play like the push version with Challenger's Debt, it's an option. I will link both versions of it, but I don't like this because it requires you to be inside and already poison the enemies. With this build, I wanted this build to be as smooth as possible. That way you can just start one-shotting things off the screen. Even the Torment boss, I one-shotted off the screen. As you guys, you'll probably see in a second here anyways, because I recorded this with no edits. But these two rings over here will really help out. So this one gives you a bunch of ultimate cooldown reduction, and then it gives you some like set amount of damage. But it's just really there for the ultimate and the willpower. And then with the Menorach Ring, you get a huge amount of damage boost to your Cataclysm. Once it's active, everything just gets more damage, which is great. But you can also get a bonus to a rank on a thing, and that will also help out with the cooldown reduction. It shows the different stats here, but basically you want to upkeep your Cataclysm 100% of the time. And then we also run the Rune Worker's Conduit. So this one over here is going to give you extra damage, but the most important thing with this is that if you want to drop Behemoths, you can drop Behemoths and put it instead in a two-hander. The reason why I recommend you guys to have a one-hander, and this is for the beginner-friendly version, is because it makes it so you can also roll cooldown reduction. That's kind of the most important thing on this build, because if you don't have this Cataclysm up 100% of the time, it's a very big deal for the build. And then also for the runes, we're running Igni and Zan. This is an absolute must to do our big damage 24/7. Ideally, you never drop your ultimate skill. If you drop your ultimate skill, you have to re-snapshot. You can see this is a Nightmare Dungeon max difficulty, and we just one-shot everything. Now, I'm running in the gameplay Bach and Vex. Bach and Vex is excellent because it's super beginner friendly. There is no double snapshotting. The other one requires you to snapshot two things. This is as easy as you can. You can't really get around running Zan. It's impossible. This thing is 100% crit and overpower. There's no replacing that. But you can replace the Bach and Vex, and instead you can run a Quack's Rune and get even more damage. I have the other version that I will also link if you want to play that. Again, it is more tedious to play because it does require you to time two things instead of just activating a skill and then you go once Zan is active on specifically Cataclysm. But as far as the Witchcraft powers go, we run the Cycle because this is a Season 7 one, and the reason why I've actually opted to update it and change it to the Cycle is it counts as a growth and decay power. That is pretty big because we need to run a total of 3 of them. So we run that just for that. It does technically activate and gives us heals, but it's just that. And then we also run Soul Harvest, so more main stat. We run Aura of Siphoning, so we can poison, which will activate Venom. And then we also have the Force of Will over here. When we kill an enemy, it gives us more overpower damage. And then we also run the Aura Specialization, which gives us extra critical strike damage and get the enemies are in this little circle. And then we also have Purging Touch, so our Eldritch effects gain increased damage against Head Rotten, and we will convert our skill into a Eldritch effect over here because we convert everything via the Occult Gems. So as far as the gems go, we can run Rubies and Sapphires. And then in the jewelry, though, we want to run the Moonlight Ward, which will give us extra damage reduction, and then also maximum resistances, which is great. And then we also run Voice of the Stars, and it's while you have an aura active, all of our ultimate skills gain the Grimoire tags and also deal more damage. And then we also run Friend of the Bog over here. I finally got this one. These things take a long time to get, by the way. You don't need these to make the build up and running, but it definitely does make a smaller amount of difference here and there. And when you're getting, billions of damage, 10% of like stats starts to add up, right? But this one over here, you just gain 10% primary stat and maximum life, and you're always unhindered. So that's a really nice thing to have for quality of life. Now that we went over that, let's go ahead and go into the skill trees. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So the first thing we want to do is make sure we can advance our skill tree. So we got to put points into some stuff. We don't really need to use them all, but there is technically one over here where you can, if you want to knock down, you can put a point into it. It doesn't really matter though. We're just here to progress. More spirit equals more damage. We don't spend spirit in the build really, unless you want to run the Quacks variant, but it's pretty much just utilized to get more damage on the Paragon. Extra damage reduction, extra damage over here. This is also a great thing if you want to get points into Backlash, but I decided to put my points into another thing so we don't have to keep that up. But Nature's Reach is something that I opt to run. If you want to drop that, that's totally fine and put it into Backlash. There's other variants that do that. I'm going to put all these points in. Endless Tempest is something that is really good. You can get this in your ring as well. It'll just increase the duration of your Hurricane and Cataclysm. So we want to get this for extra damage reduction. I personally really like Trample. Again, you can play the Bulwark if you want to. We also get Mending, so we get extra maximum life, which is good. And Venom, one of the most powerful things on the Druid. We also get Natural Disaster over here in Defiance, which is great. Now, this one is optional. If you really have some extra points, go for it. And then over here, we have the Supreme Cataclysm. You're going to max out Cataclysm. That's our source of damage. We want Catastrophe maxed out. Defensive Posture is great. And then Quick Shift and Heightened Senses. These are all great things to have. And then for our key passive, we want to put it into Ursine Strength over here. So big bonuses. That's kind of why we want to stay in the Werebear form. We get a lot of different bonuses. Now, moving on to the Paragon board, you'll see that there are a lot of extra available points here. I opted to make sure that like people can get this up and running at about 250-ish, because going to 300 Paragon isn't something that I would say is there for like the average player. It takes a really long time, but if you want like the completed thing, you could just get it into any of the things that would give you extra stats that would matter for the build, whether it's more damage while healthy. Like these are all great to get. Get the ones that you feel like you need, but again, there's a lot of like free optional points in the build. So for starters, our starter board is going to be Keeper over here. So yeah, starter board. Okay, we should probably just mouse over it like this. So we run Keeper, Spirit, Earth and Sky, Electrocution, and Dominate. So those are our glyphs, but the first one is going to be Keeper, because it used to, okay, here we go. Now it mouses over. So basically we do non-physical damage over here, because we do lightning. So that's in the first board. And then in the second board over here, we go to Survival Instinct, and we run Spirit, which gives us a bunch of bonuses on crit. And then also we run the Thunderstruck, Earth and Sky over here. So this one is going to give us bonuses on damage to crowd controlled or vulnerable. We're going to basically vulnerable all of the enemies, so it's really good for that. And then we go into the fourth board, and the order does matter for some people. It depends if you get like stats that have all stats, which could be like Shroud of False Death. But then we run Lust for Carnage over here with Electrocution, so we get more damage. We want to put this one in this board, and the reason why is it has 110 willpower. One thing with the Mobilytics website that's really good is it lets you see that number, so you can order the boards to whatever you need. And then the last one over here is going to be Dominate for Overpower. Remember, we're going to be having 100% overpower. Here's another like little one-shot of the boss over here. It's kind of finished off. But again, as far as it goes, you can get all the things that would give you, like, also want to mention, attack speed is not really required at all for the build. But if you want to get these extra things where like, oh, you can get extra maximum spirit, that's totally fine. You can path over towards that for the final points. But again, it's like so unnecessary. I don't even have it in the gameplay. You can see my level over here. We can just go do some open world content. Again, the build will dominate everything, and I figured I want to give you guys a little update to the build. Now again, I also have another variant of the build, which will have the Mythic. I'll link it down below, and I'll drop gameplay and explain some of it, but if you want to figure it out, it's not too difficult, but I'll include it early for you guys. But expect this one to require a lot more pressure for your gears to be perfect. Otherwise, you run into the situation where you drop your Cataclysm, and it is so annoying because you have to reset up the snapshot. And this one is much harder because it requires you to also move into a perfect position where you can activate your Bach rune to activate your Quax rune to actually get the big damage. Otherwise, yeah, this build doesn't do very much damage if you don't learn the snapshot. Again, check the link for the bio, or if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll just be there in the pinned. But specifically, you must learn to snapshot with this build. I have to mention that this is a build where you will do like thousands and thousands of times less damage if you do not snapshot. It is absolutely critical that you learn it, and I have a video guide. You can just search it up to like how to learn how to snapshot, because this doesn't just go with this build. Lots of different Diablo builds will be utilizing snapshot techniques. So if you don't know it, learn it. And it's pretty easy with this build. The reason why it's really easy is after you activate it, you just keep it up. And again, I'm just walking and everything just melts. Great build also if you guys want to make extra currency in Diablo, like you want to get more gold. There's lots of different Diablo forums and different like Discords. This is one of the best builds for just like power leveling people through content, because it lets you one shot, and it's super safe because you can one shot everything on the screen, off screen and stuff. It is fantastic. But there's the update for the Infinite Cataclysm Druid for the no Mythic version, and again, I will give you guys the Mythic version in gameplay form, because there's a lot more other things that I'm going to explain in a separate video. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed it, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn that bell if you'd like to see more content, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.